Alrighty then, welcome to the Daily Space Weather. And we've got quite a bit of missing data. There's a coronal mass ejection happening as we speak. The massive prominence in the northeastern limb of the closest star has recently started ejecting. It's in the process of ejecting, I guess I'll say. SDO data not available for the last couple of days here, for the last day and a half about. So this prominence up here is still partially intact. We'll get to it. And we'll show you some more wavelengths here. Here's a thematic map from the Gov 16 SUVI, and this is just the last couple of hours here. This is the last about 2.5 hours. Again, you can see part of this prominence is still intact. Part of it is in the process of diffusing out into the greater solar system. Let's take a look at volcanoes here quickly. Of course, that Iceland volcano still erupting. That new fissure. Karimsky also exploding, flight level 170 from Karimsky. Shiveluch, flight level 150 from Shiveluch. So 2 volcanoes on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Abiko on Paramushir Island, 7,000-foot ash plume from Paramushir Island. From Abiko, Sakurajima, flight level 100. It's a 10,000-foot ash plume over the Isle of Kyushu, Japan. Suwanosejima, 5,000-foot ash plume from Suwanosejima, 14,000-foot ash plume from Semeru as it's exploding. That's located in Indonesia. Dacono exploding, 7,000-foot ash plume from Dacono. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, flight level 230 over Colombia from Nevado del Ruiz. Sangay exploding, flight level 210, 21,000-foot ash plume over Ecuador from Sangay. 16,000-foot ash plume over Revenador as it explodes. Last but not least, Sabancaya exploding, and if you follow us on Twitter, you may see this share. This is the Fagradalsfjall new fissure. A great flyover with a drone. You can see that again. We retweeted that from the Twitter account, twitter.com/smashomash. Let's view that again. Some spectacular drone imagery there of some new real estate being created. Don't get too close, you're going to destroy your drone. Just spectacular. Let's see what earthquakes have been erupting. What's shaken on the planet? Let's take a look. No major quakes here. Some in the 5 range, like this 5.0 at Japan. This is the last 24 hours that we're looking at here. Also a 5.1 in Japan, a 5.0 in Indonesia, another 5.1 in Japan. So quite a bit of activity there just to the southeast of Japan. Solomon Islands also saw a 5.1. Oh, largest quake of the past 24 was a 5.7 there north of New Zealand, around the Kermadec Trench. So I'm pretty sure that's the largest quake. 5.7, that came in at 4:38 this morning. South Sandwich Islands had a 5.0. And that's where we'll end that. Here's some more Gov 16 SUVI imagery, some of the only imagery you'll find of the current state of affairs on the closest star. That's the 284 angstroms wavelength. It shows extended corona. You can see some activity from sunspot 3086. There's a new sunspot named down here too, by the way. This trailing region here was named sunspot 3072. The radial flux has come up here. It's now at 109 solar flux units. And there's the 1-year chart of the radial flux. Again, now up to 109. Here's a space weather enthusiast dashboard. No space weather storms forecasted. We'll tell you the likely trajectory of that currently occurring coronal mass ejection later in the video. Next, looking at the earthly geospace, this is the last 4 hours. And you can see calm geomagnetic conditions here. Fairly homogeneous magnetohydrodynamic pressure surrounding the planet at the moment. Again, that's the last 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure, nanopascals, modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. Here's our ground magnetic perturbations map. And not surprisingly, things quite calm on the ground. So again, this is the last 4 hours. The scale on this map is magnetic flux density, nanotesla. And it's time to view cosmic ray monitors. We do it at least once a week, sometimes more often a week if there's any major changes. So let's do it. Some more facts coming at you from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. So here is the Apatity neutron monitor. This middle pane here is the last 30 days. And you can see a significant downtick over the past 30 days, although an uptick over the past about 2 weeks. But still overall, a downward trend there. No surprise as solar activity ramps up during solar cycle 25. Barentsburg showing a very similar graph there. Downtick over the past 30 days, uptick over the past about 12 days. Now we would show Athens, Greece. However, that website is down as well, as if we don't have enough down websites. And so since we are unable to view that, let's go a little farther south to Mexico City. So here's Mexico City's neutron monitor. And a similar downtick over the past 30 days at Mexico City. Let's go back up north to Oulu, Finland. Here's Oulu. And you're seeing a similar graph there. Corroborated data makes cosmic ray data look legit. I like the way this also shows data back to 1965, and you can see the highest cosmic ray flux we've seen on planet Earth was around the year 2010, which occurred in the cycle 23 to solar cycle 24 solar minimum period. We are at much lower levels than that at the current period. So there's Oulu. We'll also show DOMB Antarctica. Downtick there as well over the past 30. There's DOMC Antarctica. Downtick there over the past 30. That's your cosmic ray report. Planetary K index at 1. Once again, it's geomagnetically calm conditions. Moving to the real-time solar wind here, we see a diminishing solar wind speed now at about 400 kilometers per second. Solar wind density about 5.2 protons per cubic centimeter. Pretty uneventful last 24 hours. GOES magnetometers are fairly smooth here. Those are the measurements from the GOES 16 and GOES 17. And fortunately, we've got some great data here from the GONG 2, the Global Oscillation Network. There's our top view ecliptic plane field plot. Earth remains in a North Pole current sheet. Here's our line of sight field plot. It shows the sun's B field in blue, and the B field is the field that goes through a magnet, this magnet being the sun. Here's our line of sight coronal hole plot. We've got a very well-defined North Pole-oriented coronal hole directly facing Earth at the moment. So here's a great view of that from the GOES 16 SUVI. This is 195 angstroms. And that's approximately the last 2.5 hours. So very well-defined coronal hole there. It is of North Pole orientation, shown there in green on the line-of-sight coronal hole plot. That will provide us a high-speed coronal hole wind stream in about 3 days. 3.5 days, I'll say. And again, we've got a second named sunspot here. But really, we've got two main groups, sunspot 3068 and sunspot 3071. Most likely place to see additional flares is indeed from sunspot 3068. It is actually producing some activity recently. So here's our El Teide solar magnetogram from the ground-based solar observatory. And it looks like this is growing significantly. Check it out. You can see some major growth there of sunspot 3068, those leading umbrae. Significantly growing there. SDO is down once again, I remind you. And we did see a double C-class flare happen there. Let's take a look at that in the one-day graph. Sort of a long-duration double C-class flare. Peak flux was at 6:08 this morning on August 5th. It was nearly a C5, a C4.86 class flare. Make sure you follow us on Twitch if you haven't. And thanks to our YouTube subscribers. If you're not seeing all the video content appearing in your subscription feed, make sure you head to smashomash.com/smashteam. More on that in a moment. And did you want to save some cash on your medical bills? We've got a new link. It's a link to our SureMed site. Check that out. It's an association membership. It is not insurance. Although there are some insurances you can add to it. So if you want to improve your health, consider joining SureMed. Again, links below the video to that. Make sure you use my link. And feel free to call the number listed. Next, again, smashomash.com/smashteam. You'll find our video content. If you're a gold or silver level member, you'll find more content as well, like the GDAX daily reports. You can also support the channel by picking up some merch. Today's featured product is, I'm wearing it, Google Defined. Did you know that Google doesn't even want you using the word Google as a verb? Yeah, Google doesn't want you to use Google as a verb. You see, people think using the word Google means to obtain search results from the internet. What it really means is to obtain biased search results from the internet. I stopped using Google as a search engine in about 2012. I had to go 12 pages deep to find I typed in the whole URL, and I had to go about 12 pages deep to find the website that I searched for. That was when I realized that the results were, shall we say, less than objective. So the real definition is to obtain biased search results using the Google search engine. That's why I don't use it. Of course, you might say it's a little bit of a monopoly. Did you know the two largest search engines in the world are Google and YouTube? Yeah, Google and YouTube. What's the problem there? Well, YouTube is using Google in order to search. So it's really Google and Google are the two largest search engines. Google, Google, Google. What do you think of the Android OS? Leave us a comment. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of the Android OS. Personally, I think that all smartphone technology is behind about 20 years and less than smart. But in any case, it's our fifth bestseller, I think. Google Defined, to use the Google search engine to obtain biased information about someone or something on the World Wide Web. You can find links to that below the video, as well as on smashomash.com. And welcome to the Neo Renaissance, where we cite fact after fact, probably why we have less than 300 followers on Twitter and barely 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. So thanks to everybody who's tuned in. If all you can do is press like, subscribe, and the notification bell, please do. Let's get back to some imagery of the closest star. Here's 94 angstroms from the GOES 16 SUVI. And again, you can see a little bit of activity here. Some minor C-class flaring happening there in the past couple of hours. We'll zoom in. Sunspot 3086 continues to be the most likely spot to see additional X-rays. GOES proton flux here remains flatlined. No relativistic particles. And here is the 131 angstroms view from the GOES 16 SUVI. Again, we're only showing the last about 2.5 hours because we've got a lot of missing data. Maybe it's another power outage at the SDO data site. Who knows? Let's move on. We do have additional imagery here of the closest star, so don't you worry. First, a star chart. Showing that morning planetary pileup, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. And we encourage our viewers to look up. This star chart is from in-the-sky.org. Planetary solar system forecast here, showing things like phases of the moon. We're about to move from a crescent waxing to a gibbous waxing as we approach another full moon. I think we're 1 week away. Let's advance this. There's where things will be in a week. Full moon approaching. And here is our coronagraph imagery. So we do have SOHO images here. That is yesterday. And when we show today's imagery, you will see a CME coming out of the southeastern limb. So that CME there, we're not expecting that to be earthly directed, although it is not fully propagated yet. So it's quite hard to say. In fact, let's see if there are any new frames. And not really. Unfortunately, the view from Stereo A is not including any new data either. We've got old data, so not a lot to show there, and same thing with the SOHO. We do have the El Teide ground-based solar observatory, and you can see this filament in the northeast making its way off. So that's showing you nearly 24 hours. Keep in mind, El Teide doesn't face the sun all day long. And that imagery is in hydrogen alpha. Hydrogen alpha, 6,562.8 angstroms. And let's pause for station identification. Thanks for leaving comments. Tinman1057, good morning to you as well. And good morning to Red Split Rail Fence. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. All right, so last but not least, here is, I think this is the last GOES 16 SUVI imagery we've got. And you can see that filament. Part of it's still hanging out up there. So people were looking at that all day yesterday. And it's been quite a spectacular prominence. Looks like it may be partially collapsing there, partially ejecting. Hopefully we'll be able to cover it tomorrow, but not from the SDO imagery, because check it out. The last image we got here is from August 3rd. Next, doing our bonus features segment. No satellite charging hazards at the moment. That is the satellite's community dashboard, part of the Space Weather Prediction Center. You can go check it out yourself if you like. Electron flux here just in a moderately low operating range. By the way, the relativistic electrons are measured by the GOES 16 and GOES 17 from their geosynchronous near equatorial orbits using radiography. And they're measuring it at the F ionosphere layer. Here's the NOAA forecast. And it's been fairly accurate there. The green boxes are the forecast, the yellow diamonds are the observation. There's the 1-year chart. That should put it in context. We'll show the F ionosphere layer. It's located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. This is vibrational frequency, otherwise known as megahertz. And I don't know why it stopped. There's some reason for it. Let's refresh. And here's the anomalygram, anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. We show it daily on the channel. Low-frequency anomalies shown in red, high-frequency anomalies shown in blue. And there's the ionogram, latest image, 10:15 universal time. And there's the anomalygram. Total electron content forecast shows the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset, which includes the thermosphere, the ionosphere, and 2 plasmaspheres. Also the inner Van Allen belt, which is what you're seeing there. These high electron zones, that's the inner Van Allen belt, essentially. And feel free to pause the video on the next frame if you're not familiar with the altitudes of things. This next image shows altitudes in miles. And when your GPS satellite must communicate through a lot of free electrons, you get huge GPS errors. That's incentive to turn on your Wi-Fi accuracy. Signal gets refracted, and your GPS handset thinks you're at a different spot on the planet. Now, this imagery here is useless because we're looking at August 3rd. So let's just ignore that entirely. And we can't show you any more images of the closest star. So let's just move right into our Smash News Network Least Busted Name in News Meteorology segment. Now we're going to show you something to be very scared and spooked of. This is very scary and very spooky. At the Smash News Network Least Busted Name in News, we want to frighten you as much as possible because, hey, YouTube views. So check it out. This part of the Earth right here, Southern California. It's very frightening and very scary and spooky because carbon dioxide levels are at 436 parts per million, which means death is at their doorstep. Now, if you go up someplace like here, it's very safe because right here, carbon's only 410. Carbon dioxide, oh my God. Carbon dioxide surface concentration. Holy cripes, folks. Did you know that Antarctica's ice sheets formed about 34 million years ago, while the planet was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it is today? Are you worried about Antarctica's ice sheets melting? Well, they've been there for about 34 million years, and they formed when the planet was 3 degrees Celsius warmer than it is today. Did you know that the definition of an ice age is when the planet has ice caps on both poles all year round? Does that sound familiar? Yeah, you're currently in an ice age. I guess that may be an inconvenient fact. Carbon dioxide, the most important trace gas on Earth and at the base of every food pyramid. Does it correlate with temperature? Let us know in the comments if you think carbon dioxide correlates with Earth's temperatures. And I don't mean between now and 1979. Okay, so here are the surface winds of the Eastern world. Shout out to our viewers from Oceania, the Far East, India, etc. Is anybody viewing from the Far East? I have to wonder. Here are the jet streams. And the jet streams are quite chaotic here in the northern hemisphere. Strong anticyclone here over Central Asia. Jet streams of the Americas look like this. Strong anticyclone over the eastern Rockies, I'll say. That is a high pressure zone, likely clear skies over that portion of the U.S. Strong clockwise rotation there, indicating upper level high pressure anticyclone. Here are the surface winds of the Americas. Strong anticyclone in the northern Pacific, it looks like as well. Here are the surface winds of the Central World, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. We apologize if we've been citing too many facts on the channel. I know facts are very controversial in the year 2022. We're wondering when accountability will come, if ever. Let us know about the banana republic in which you live. Or perhaps you live someplace where it's not a banana republic. Somehow I doubt it. Anyway, those are the jet streams of the Central World. Jet stream blowing backwards over the northern Indian Ocean and northern Africa, blowing east to west. And don't worry, folks, the jet stream is not going to reverse the orbit or the rotation of the planet. Next, our weather.gov map. If your county's lit, click your county. We've got some winter storm watches in northern Alaska, and lots of flooding still forecasted here. Most of Kentucky here seeing flood warnings, flood watches, etc. Hydrologic outlooks, those are, those are flood advisories, and those red areas are flash flood warnings. If your county's lit, please click your county. And if you've got horrifying floods coming, please evacuate. Waist-deep water is unhealthful. So here's our pressure and precipitation forecast, and you can see some significant systems there rolling around the U.S. A bunch of sort of compact, localized, heavy storms expected. That's the GFS pressure and precipitation forecast for the next 72 hours. Here's the GFS total accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 72 hours, and no respite for Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, and western North Carolina. Heavy rains continuing, like 2 more inches expected. And also flooding expected there in Nevada. We'll also show the temperature anomaly forecast. This is the same model, the GFS model. Temperature anomaly shown here in degrees Celsius. Again, that's your 72-hour GFS temperature anomaly forecast. Next, we're showing the pressure map from windy.com. We've got a strong low here in central Canada. Anticyclone off the coast of Ireland, and an anticyclone in the northern Pacific. Mixed pressures in the U.S. Again, we've got a high pressure system here in places like central Colorado. Clear skies likely over that area. Next, our NASA GOES lightning mapper. Saw some very strong lightning here in Maryland over the past about 10 hours. Let's look at a real-time lightning map. And indeed, there are terrestrial strikes. This is lightningmaps.org, if you're wondering. It's spectacular. If you've never checked it out, next time you hear thunder, check it out. We've got some lightning here in western Tennessee. Some thunder rolling in that area. It's a fairly minor cell. Scattered lightning going on over large portions of North America at the moment. No, it's not HARP, and no, it's not directed energy weapons. It's the weather. Get it right. All right. And we're about to close things out here. Here's our Doppler radar imagery for the U.S. Lots of precipitation there over Alaska. Let's focus on the lower 48. Here's clouds and fog. Again, you can see this clockwise rotation here, centered around the that's the Kansas-Colorado border. And here's the water vapor map. We've got this area of dry massive air right here. This is effectively a high pressure system. And that is causing this moisture to butt up against it. And it's sort of acting like a blocking feature, preventing it from continuing to the east. And here's your recap. U.S. Doppler radar. Shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog. There is a low pressure system here right near Bermuda. It's looking weak because it is surrounded by dry massive air. You can see once again dry air all around there, mixing into it, helping to weaken that system. That's where we'll close things out. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. Pardon the missing data, but we brought up a bit of it for you. We hope that clarified things, and may that solar wind be at your back.